Today we're going to be doing some doodles like this. These are draw what you see, the idea of creating a little splash of colour and then from that creating a little world on your page. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do that just now. Obviously you could use anything to create your splash. Today I'm going to actually use these Staedtler pigment markers. These are quite fun, pretty vibrant, nice to lay down colour. Most importantly, they actually don't bleed through. Unlike alcohol markers, they don't bleed through, so I can use them safely in my sketchbook. So I'm having a little bit of fun with those. And let's just dive into it, having a little bit of fun. So all we're going to do, take a colour, and there needs to be no intention here. It's easy to go, I'm going to draw a city, and you end up drawing a city. But what I would love you to do is just make some marks. So not even looking, close your eyes, and just see what happens. And then if you feel like it, you can add another colour. So you could use, I've got a deeper blue here, so I could just fill in some gaps with that. A bit more intention here, but still I'm not actually imagining yet what I'm going to draw. And then we can move on. Because the idea is create a few little splashes and splatters like this. And I call them splatters because this is the kind of thing I would often do with my watercolours. Take a big brush and you create a fun set of marks on the page and just explore from there. Have a bit of fun, see what you create. And today we just happen to be doing it with some pigment markers, pigment pens, marker pens, whatever you want to call them. And this would work absolutely great with Tombo pens, which are my sort of favourite marker pen. The only difference being that the Tombos would bleed straight through my page, which would make me actually not that upset. But it would make me have to think about which page I'm using. That's the main reason for not using those today. So there we go. Now today I'm going to stick with 3 splashes. I'm just going to soften them out a little bit. I've got another exercise very similar to this, which you can actually download on my website. It's just a little workbook I made for sort of, call it silencing your critic. So 5 exercises, finding your style. I think it's quite fun and it's completely free. So if you want to download more of these exercises, you can find them there. Here I'm just again smoothing out a little bit more. My brain went on autopilot, I added another colour. And we are ready to move on to the what do you see part of this exercise. I hate the word exercise. Study, fun, doodling, you know, better than exercise, isn't it? So I'm going to start in the middle because immediately I see some kind of seahorse come dragon. But if I didn't see anything, what I would just start by doing is just going around the outside. So little marks around the outside. And as you sort of draw, just allow your sort of line to wander around, little wander all over the page. And you end up just finding something. You end up just sort of wandering into something a little bit creative, even if it's totally abstract. And we'll do something totally abstract as one of these 3 splashes, so you can get what I mean by that. And here we go. By having these 2 colours, we've immediately got the idea of something shadowy on the bottom. And for me, this is going to be the belly of my proverbial beast. But I think this beast might be a sort of friendly seahorse dragon rather than an absolute beast. And we can kind of just, having done an outline, found some lines within, we can start doing little bits of hatching, finding little details, adding bits. So perhaps this chappie, now that I've decided he's definitely a seahorse, has a little sort of fin on the top of his head. It's okay to go beyond your splash. Don't feel limited by your splash in any way. Then he's underwater. Let's just get this idea of, I don't know, movement, something fluid around him. These are lines. That's my sort of sense of trying to achieve that. We can get the lines crisscrossing over each other. Some of them can come out straight, many of them looped. They can loop over and under. Just a little bit more, let's call it dynamism in there. Just, these are my ideas anyway. Have a go at yours, you know. And also in the comments, let me know clever ideas that you could let me know that I could play with. Always up for being taught and learning clever things. Or not so clever, just things, anything. Now, just finding a few more little shapes within these darker areas. But I think this one is pretty much there in terms of my ink. But what we can always do, come back with a bit more of our pigment markers and actually create a little bit more detail. So I can find some of these. This looks like, I don't know, these scales, are they little fins? We can give them a bit of shadow with this darker green. We can even come in with a different colour. Let's take a red. That should stand out nicely against the green. Maybe he's just got like a little line of red along his nose. Maybe his eyes red. That's just made it a bit dark, hasn't it? But there you go. Maybe his eyes dark. There we go. That's because the pigment markers are sort of blending with one another. Green and red is a good way of making a neutral. So let's do one more thing then. Bit more colour. And I'm going to make these sort of swirls into little blue marks. Just this, you know, riffing on this idea of kind of underwater. And when you approach your own little marks, or if you go on my website, as I said, got a little exercise where you can even print off some of my own marks, if that's what you want to do. But when you approach your own marks, animals are a really good place to start because these kind of looping, swirling things are easy to find on the page. Anyway, next one, let's come down here. So this one, we'll do something man-made instead of natural. So what have we got here? Well, perhaps what we've got is some kind of geometric object building, I don't know. And the red and the yellow, what are the red and the yellow doing? Why are they different? I don't know yet. Let's just go round the edges of them and find out why. Not sure what this is going to be yet, but it will be something. And I'm sort of finding a little, there's like a sense of an edge along here, and then a little bit of edge there. Maybe this is a triangle. We kind of ended up, maybe this is a house on the right here. Got this roof, haven't we? So I just come down, extend below, this time below my little splatter. Get us some windows. Don't want to overly finish off the bottom. In fact, right, we'll pop it on a kind of floating island. That keeps it nonsensically abstract enough for my late Monday evening head, as I'm doing this on a Monday, if that didn't make any sense. And there we go. Little bit of bolder lines here. We're going to have to get back to some proper ink doodling just to bring out some of the shapes in there. Come back up here. And then what's this? Well, if I make this nice and bold, this edge here, this obviously is a distant island now, isn't it? Obviously. So I can pop another little island on there, even have a lamppost, have a couple of houses. In fact, let's have a kind of a tower, a little gentle tower in the background. And we could have a chap, or a chapess in the distance as well. And then this yellow just is sort of glowing sun, isn't it? Something like that. You can have some random lines looping to connect. Seems like a theme, doesn't it? These little looping lines. Maybe it is a theme. Maybe my brain's just running out of energy to create other ideas. Can I just apply some contrast? Contrast really important. Dark marks. There's a bit of contrast in here with some real bold ink. And I think continue the idea of a little bit of hatching to separate out foreground, background, empty space. Now I do want to probably play with some other colours again. So I'm going to just get out this purple. It's quite a nice sort of soft colour. Feels a bit shadowy whilst not being overwhelming or overly high in value. So just pop some of that in there. Just finding ideas of shadows, I guess, is probably what I'm trying to say. I'm going to take some yellow, put that yellow in these windows, reflecting the sky, something like that's my idea. And I'll do a little bit of blue as well, why not? Just to dull down this yellow and this red. There we go. So what these pens, what they do is they pick up some of that ink. So if I use the blue here, for example, you can see it almost becomes grey because it's dragging some of that ink with it. So being aware of that can actually be really useful. Not being aware of it can be a bit of a pain. Wasn't aware of it when I first used these and end up with sort of mucky yellows and things, but being aware of it, you can have a bit of fun. Don't know why I'm doing this, bit of hatching in the sky, bit of that blue against the yellow. There we go, 2, let's call them quirky ideas. I quite enjoy them, or at least I enjoy doing them, and that's good enough an excuse for me. And I promised something a little bit abstract, so we'll do that. Before we do something abstract, I'm just going to fill up some of my space with some labels. So, house in the sky. That's what this one's going to be called. House in the sky. ... on a rock. Not very good at naming things, in case you hadn't worked it out. Tend to name my paintings very literally. There you go. So willing to take names, there you go. For all future paintings and things on this channel, willing to take ideas for names. And this is going to be Horse Dragon Dude. There you go. If in doubt, you now know how low my wordsmithing abilities are. Just in case you wanted to know, you now know. So let's get on with this though. So this is going to be something abstract. So this is just going to be labelled machinery. And if you're just looking for an idea of something to just turn any blob or block into, then just start thinking of like steampunky machinery or like futuristic machinery. Just find lots of shapes. So first we've got all these different shapes from the overlapping colours. We can add in simple geometric marks to join them up. And we start to just get this idea of a something, like a geometric set of objects all linked together. And then you can find like long things. So maybe this is a pipe going into a cube. So again, we just add a bit of contrast, a bit of hatching, and we make these simple 2D marks into something more 3D. Here's another pipe going into whatever this contraption is, but now we've established it's 3D, we can just add a sort of consistent set of shadows on there. This feels more sort of natural, so maybe it's something that's inflated, so more spherical. Get some hatching in there to suggest the kind of spherical nature of this, and maybe just give it a balloony end over here. That's some kind of inflated object. There we go. And that, of course, will need to be tied down so we can have more of my little wires connecting it. Maybe it's even holding something. So it's all sort of weighed down this end. That's why, of course, that's why this inflated object is heavier here. So there's a ton down here, weighing it all down. Then we've got these other marks, which we can just turn into connections again. We can turn them into things in the distance. You know, this blue feels more distant. So just simple marks, simple little wandering lines. And you might end up feeling really energetic and really creative and being able to turn this into something like, I don't want to say ornate for a sort of steampunky idea, but I hope you know what I mean by ornate. You know, detailed, full of ideas, full of ink, full of textures. Or you might be tired like I am today, so you just sort of let your brain wander around and don't think too much about it. Just go, you know, where does it want to be a little more full? Where's feeling full enough already? And then you end up with something like this. So we've got this kind of set of interconnected, semi-futuristic objects. We can add a little panel next to it. So in my panel I'm going to have a few like buttons. Maybe there'll be a lever coming off the edge here, and you can sort of start labeling that on, off, yes, no, question mark, little other buttons, maybe a kind of little warning down here. And since we've got an extra bit of our page which has now got some doodle action on, let's give ourselves the joy of having a bit more colour. So we can have these yellows, being aware that the yellow here for me is going to pick up a bit of that muckiness from the ink. So I'll try not to do too much with it. There we go. Now I'm going to use this darker blue just to reinforce some of the ideas we had here. We got these ideas of things which are 3D. I think we'll just get that idea a bit more with some layering here of these colours. And why not link and loop here as well? And while we're doing that, let's do some of these little marks. They're quite fun. Don't have to mean anything, just a bit of abstract wibbly wobbly nonsense. And there you go. There's my finished page of Draw What You See. As I said too many times, you can find a similar exercise like this. I've linked it down below. I also have a full sort of Skillshare where I pull out lots of different techniques and ideas. That's this page where I've used watercolours, I've used watercolour pencils, I've used these same markers. And we just explore different ideas over a much longer class than on this YouTube. So if you're on Skillshare, come and find this class. If you're on YouTube, if you like, follow me on my website as well. You can find a bit more there. Thank you very much for joining in, and have a lovely rest of your morning, afternoon, evening, whatever it happens to be.